What's up, guys? It's Bumpkins. Today is Wednesday, March 30th. Wednesday means New Comic Book Day. New Comic Book Day means New Comic Book Haul video. As always, I went down to Infinity Flux here in Chattanooga, Tennessee for another big old stack of books and a few other goodies as well. Real quick, guys, if you need a comic shop, if you need somewhere to start a pull list so that you can be getting books on a regular basis, and you don't have one, or maybe you do but you need a better one, reach out to Infinity Flux. They will be tagged in the description below. Just reach out to them to start a pull list. They will ship in the US, so if you're here in the US and you want to start a pull list with somebody, reach out to them and they can hook you up. But guys, there was some really good books in the pile this week. A couple not so great, but some that were super good, and a lot in between. So let's get started with Amazing Spider-Man number 93. Guys, this is the end of this particular run of Spider-Man. So 93 issues plus some other tie-ins when they did the Hunter, I don't remember the name, but the Hunter storyline, and then the Beyond storyline. There were some extra tie-ins there. So all in all, probably around about 100 issues or so. And this is the end. This is the end of this run. This is the end of the Beyond storyline. A new series is starting next month with number 1. Peter Parker is back as Spider-Man. Ben Reilly's been the main Spider-Man throughout the Beyond storyline. Peter's back now. But Ben isn't necessarily... Well, I won't say anything else, because I don't want to spoil anything about this story, because it was pretty good. It was a good ending. It was a good ending to the story, and then the ending to this book left a lot of doors open for some really interesting things. I can think of at least 2 doors that are open that I really want to see, what happens next. So the only thing is, I hate that they're starting over again with numbering. Like, just keep going. If you got a new story arc, a new creative team, that's fine. But you don't have to start over with a new number 1. Just keep going. Especially when they're doing a legacy number. I think, like, number 6 of the next one is going to be Legacy number 900. It would be cool just to have an Amazing Spider-Man number 900, but whatever. This was a good ending to this story, and I can't wait to see what happens next. Speaking of endings, we've got Dark Ages number 6, which is the end to this storyline as well. So you guys know, every time this has come up, I've talked about how much I love Dark Ages, and I did really enjoy this book too, but in all honesty, this is probably the weakest issue of the whole thing. So again, this is the end. I won't say if the good guys win or the bad guys win, but one side wins, and the side that does win, they go about winning very easily. Like it was just over all of a sudden. Like, oh, that's all it took for your side of this story to accomplish your goals. Like, why didn't you just do that from the beginning and save yourself a lot of time and headache and death? There are a couple other pretty gruesome deaths in here as well, so that's pretty cool. Tom Taylor likes to kill characters for some reason, and it's okay because this is its own universe, its own separate storyline, completely separate from anything else that Marvel's telling. So I do really love Dark Ages. I'm going to be buying the trade when it comes out just so I can have this whole story collected. But yeah, I just found the ending, like I said, it was just, oh, okay, well that's over then. I guess we can move on now. And then it's just, I don't know. Really good. The art is awesome. I do highly recommend the 6-issue series. I just wish the ending had been a little bit weightier, I guess, had a little bit higher stakes, if you will. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but a good story, but not the best ending to this, to how good of a story it was. This wasn't the best ending. Next up is probably my favorite Marvel book of the ones that I read so far, and I haven't read all of them. I read most, but not all. So, Ghost Rider number 2. So this one was really good. This one was quite a bit better than the first issue. The first issue suffered from we got to set up the story, tell you where everybody is, what's going on with Johnny Blaze, that kind of thing. But this story, it's kind of neat because it's the situation that Johnny Blaze gets himself into in this issue is pretty much a one and done. Like, it's resolved by the end of the issue, but this isn't a complete one and done story because it does obviously refer to the events of the last issue. And the ending does, leave the door open for events in the next issue. So, but this one was really fun. We do get a lot more awesome Ghost Rider action in this one. Plus, this was I almost consider this to be like a horror comic. Like, this reminded me of some of the horror indies I've read recently and a couple, thriller movies that I've watched lately too. So, this wasn't your typical superhero Ghost Rider beating up a mythical supervillain kind of thing. This was a little bit more sinister than that, which is really good. So, yeah, I'm enjoying this series so far. I'm definitely on board for at least the next one, and probably more after that. Next up, we've got Hulk number 5. this is still just the weirdest Hulk story, but it's just interesting. Like, I just want to keep coming back. I want to know what happens. You know, you've got Bruce Banner piloting the Hulk, not like literally, but that's how like his psyche is fractured, is broken up into Hulk the starship, and then Banner the pilot, and then, you know, OG Hulk, which is locked in a like a bunker type thing, beating up whatever Banner throws at him to build up his rage meter, if you will, to act as fuel for the Hulk ship. That sounds crazy. Just saying it out loud sounds crazy, but it's pretty interesting. This issue, we've got Hulk fighting a big mutated Peter Parker spider creature, which sounds crazy too, but it's not on this world, it's on a different world, so it kind of makes sense, I guess, by comic book logic. But yeah, this one was really fun. The next issue is the last issue in this first story arc. I don't know where they're going after that, but I definitely want to see. So yeah, not your typical Hulk story, but one that I just can't stay away from. Next up is Hulk Grand Design #1. I had to get the awesome homage cover. So I did not get the chance to read this one yet. This is actually a pretty, I don't know if you can tell, like this is actually a pretty thick book. I didn't get the chance to read it yet, but I flipped through it and it's gorgeous. I'll give you some example pages. So we've got cool stuff like this. You can see they actually use the She-Hulk #1 cover. That's like classic 80s Hulk right there. This is a cool page right here where it's actually, you know, done up like a newspaper clipping. So if you don't know, the Grand Design books, they kind of tell, like this one especially, this sort of tells the history of the Hulk. Now this isn't the full history because there's at least another one issue coming. So I think this ends around Hulk number 300. But it basically starts with his origin and just kind of walks you through. There's his meeting with the Stranger, you know, from way back in the day, back in the 60s. Here's where Doc Samson first appeared, that kind of thing. So, and it's kind of interesting looking through this because a lot of the stories, at least in the earlier part of this book, are ones that I've covered for my History of Marvel videos. So it's cool to sort of see those stories sort of reimagined in this style. But yeah, it's a really pretty book. Even the physical quality of the book, like the pages are, you can see the pages are not white like most pages. They're sort of like this off-white color, and it's not a coloring thing. Like that's the actual paper. The paper is like a rough, almost like newspapery feel, like old school comics. So yeah, this is a really well-crafted book. So I can't wait to sit down and actually read through the history of the Hulk, and then definitely get the next one to read the sort of a later history. So yeah, I really recommend this one. I know there was an X-Men Grand Design 2. I don't think I read that. I think I have it in my to-read list on like Marvel Unlimited or something, but maybe I need to go like find a trade for that or something. But yeah, if you want a really unique-looking book and are interested in the Hulk and his history, definitely grab this one. Next up is Iron Fist #2. So this is continuing the new story of Lin Lai or Lee or Lay? I'm not real sure. I don't want to pronounce it wrong, but Swordmaster, basically, as the new Iron Fist. Pretty interesting concept with him. You know, the shards of his sword are embedded in his hand. And something they didn't really touch on last issue, but they do in this one, is he can't hold a sword anymore. Like he can't hold chopsticks, or he doesn't have like fine motor skills in his hands. I guess he can make a fist, but it's disrupting his chi. I can't remember the exact name for it, but his Iron Fist. You know, he can't control that power because of his hand. So he's trying to figure all that out. He goes through some training in this one to sort of help him with that. So that's pretty cool. This book is all right. I don't know that I love it. I like all the characters and I love the concept and I love, you know, this look as Iron Fist and everything. But it's another book of a young hero trying to learn how to. A young hero trying to learn how to be a hero, and we got a couple more in this stack. So, those are good stories, but there's just so many of them. You know what I mean? So, no hate against them, but there's, you know, I want to read something a little bit different. So, I'm probably going to stick around with this miniseries though, because I do like the characters. But yeah, hopefully he can, you know, through this series he can sort of graduate to a you know, top tier hero level. Next up is Miles Morales Spider-Man #36, the Carnage Forever variant. This one was pretty fun. You've got Miles and Shift sort of jumping through a couple different universes or multiverses looking for his Uncle Aaron. It was pretty cool. It's kind of weird that this doesn't tie into the What If Miles Morales series going on right now, since that features different Mileses of different universes, you know, as different heroes. Like the first issue was him as Captain America. The second one's going to be him as Wolverine. It would be kind of cool, like if this and that were sort of related to each other, since this Miles is hopping through multiverses and that book is about other alternate Miles. That would be neat to see, but they're completely separate. So, but we do see a couple of universes. We do see like 3 or 4 different universes that he hops in. 2 of them are really cool that you'll recognize if you've been reading comics for any amount of time. So yeah, this one was a pretty good story, and I'm excited to see what multiverse he hops into next. So not new this week, but I did pick up Silver Surfer Rebirth number 2 because I got the first one, really enjoyed it, pre-ordered issue number 3, which I also picked up today because it came out today, but for some reason I didn't pre-order 2, so which means it wasn't in my pull box or anything, and I just didn't think about it when it came out. So luckily they had a couple left, so I picked up number 2 that came out last month, and then number 3 today. These 2 I did not have a chance to read either, but the first issue was awesome. You got Ron Mars writing, Ron Lim penciling. That's like classic Silver Surfer cosmic 90s goodness, which is where my heart is, where this is the team that was doing it when I was reading comics when I was a kid in the 90s. So yeah, I need to jump on these because the first issue was awesome. It really tickled the nostalgia bones. So that's it for Marvel, but DC was a small DC week this week, but there's a couple good ones here. Batman One Dark Knight number 2. Unfortunately, I really wanted to read this before this video, but I read so much other stuff and it was starting to get late, so I had to hop on and do this. But the first issue was awesome. Batman is trying to transport a prisoner from his temporary holdings all the way to Blackgate, but he's got to go all the way across Gotham to do it. And while he's doing that, an EMP blast hits and the power in the entire city goes out, and now Batman has to basically transport this prisoner and fight his way all across the city while different villains and gangs and things like that are trying to get to this villain. So the first issue was really cool. Most of the first issue was a lot of setup, so it didn't really get like super cool until the end. But once it got to the end, it got super cool. Now I'm hoping this whole thing is super coolness. So yeah, I can't wait to read this one because the first issue was really good. Next up is Shadow War Alpha number 1. So this kicks off the big crossover story that's going to crossover between, well, this is the beginning, and then Batman, the actual Batman series, Deathstroke Inc., and Robin, and then wrapping up with Shadow War Omega, I think? I'm not sure. There's another Shadow War, bookends, basically. This was a pretty interesting story. Ra's al Ghul decides that he wants to give himself up. He wants to release the knowledge and the effects of the Lazarus Pit. He wants to give that to the world to help cure diseases and things like that. Talia reluctantly is going to be part of that as well. She's going to give herself up. But then while they're trying to do that, and while he's delivering a speech, something happens. Deathstroke is involved, which is pretty cool. We get a little bit of respawn in this, not too much, but he's in there. So yeah, this was just a really interesting story, and I like the way that they're doing this, and kind of the same way with another one we'll talk about in a second. These don't all have to be like big universe-shattering events, and you don't need to have, like Devil's Reign. I love Devil's Reign, but Devil's Reign is a 6-issue miniseries plus a whole bunch of tie-ins as well. You don't really need that. You've got Shadow War Alpha, and then the next parts crossover between Batman 122 and whatever the next Deathstroke book is, whatever the next Robin is, and it just like weaves in between those titles and then ends with another bookend like this. So, and it's not that many parts, and it's books I was reading anyway. So this is a good way to do a crossover and to tell a good long story, but not feel like you have to break the bank or put out a whole bunch of unnecessary issues. So yeah, this was a fun story. I love the artwork, and I'm very excited to see the next issue next week. And then last for DC, we're already done. War for Earth 3 number 3. So like I was talking with Shadow War. This is the bookend. This is the end of this War for Earth 3 storyline, which began with a War for Earth 3 number 1, crossed over between Suicide Squad and Teen Titans Academy and something else. I don't remember. Flash. Yeah. And this was fine, I guess. It started strong and it sort of ended weak, but it was okay. I feel like there was a big in this issue, the conclusion. There was a big battle on Earth 3, but I feel like the whole battle could have been avoided if they just didn't start the thing in the first place. You know what I mean? If Amanda Waller hadn't even kicked off her plan, then the whole thing and the end results would have been the same. So it was still okay, But, you know, the Titans were only in it for just a little bit. The ending was pretty interesting, and I do want to see where they're going with that, because it hasn't been in any of the solicitations. There could be maybe a new book coming or a new storyline or something, so I'm not real sure where they're going to go with that. But, yeah, thankfully this wasn't too many parts, because it wasn't, it declined with each part it did. It became less good, I guess, so, yeah. I'm glad it's over, but I guess it was a fun ride. I got a handful of Image and other indies as well. So with Image, we'll start off with Radiant Black number 13. This kicks off what they're calling year 2 of Radiant Black. Nathan is back home now after being in the hospital for like 10 months. Marshall is still doing Radiant Black stuff, although he's not like the most super heroic Radiant Black, but there is a cool fight near the end, and I'm excited to see where that goes. There's some mystery about what Nathan's role is going to be with Marshall doing this, but he's still got a little bit of a connection to the thing, you know, the whatever it is that gives him his power. So this was a good start to a new year, of stories, and I'm on board for it. Okay, so I talked about in the Iron Fist miniseries how we've got a lot of stories right now of young heroes learning how to be heroes and, you know, that kind of thing, and those are good stories, but there's just so many. I'm kind of tired of them, and so we got a lot of that in Rogue Sun number 2. Now, I did very much enjoy this book, and I'm definitely on board to get more of them, like just every month I'll just pick it up. But again, you've got Dylan, who is the son of the guy who was Rogue Sun before, and now Dylan is trying to learn how to be Rogue Sun. Problem is, Dylan is a jerk. Like, he is super unlikable. He is a literal school bully. He threatens a kid in this issue with if the kid doesn't do his homework for him, he's gonna bully him, and he's super unlikable. I guess maybe that's the point. Maybe we're not supposed to like him at first, and we go with him on this journey to learning how to be a hero and learning how to do better. Now, he does reluctantly don the armor because he knows that people are in trouble, so he does want to help people, but he's just like, he's whining and complaining about it the whole time. And there's another aspect to that I won't talk about because it does kind of spoil the first issue. So I do like this book. It's a cool character. I love the concept, and I want to see where it goes, but golly, the main character is so unlikable. This issue was kind of hard to read in points. And last for Image, Spawn number 328. You guys know I'm not caught up on Spawn, so it's going to go on my Spawn pile down here. That's a super cool cover. I should have flipped through it because I love the artwork in this. But yeah, I say it every week, I just got to sit down and get caught up on Spawn. We've got one from Boom, Something is Killing the Children, number 21. So after the last issue, after that second arc, Erica Slaughter's kind of origin story wrapped up, I told myself, I really like Something is Killing the Children, but this is a story much better read in trade. I'm going to drop it and definitely pick up the trades because the stories are really good, but I just want to sit down and read through the whole thing. But then, number 21 starts off a whole new arc. I kind of got suckered in. I was like, well, yeah, it's so good though, and I really just want to keep reading it because it's been a while since we've had one. So I picked up number 21, new story arc, and it's pretty good. Like, I'm glad I got this, and I'm on board for single issues going forward. We get introduced to a new character in this. I'm not really sure what her path is going to be, but she's all wrapped up in, you know, she's experienced a tragedy thanks to something weird looking near the end, which was pretty cool. And we got to see what happens, how that all shakes out, what her role is going to be going forward. So yeah, this was just a good first issue of a new story arc, and I'm definitely on board for more. You guys know that I'm not a big spec guy. I don't do keys. I don't do grading. I'm not a key hunter, buying, spending lots of money on one single back issue. None of that stuff. I just like to buy the books and read the stories and enjoy them. With that said, every now and then I get suckered into, not suckered in because it's my own choice, but I do sort of buy into the hype of a book, and this is one of those times. So this is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 127. A series that I have not read one single issue of. Have a couple of the hardcovers, which are really nice. I do want to get all those because I really do want to read the series. But this being the first appearance in comics of Venus de Milo, if you guys are as old as me and remember the Ninja Turtles like live action TV show from like 20-something years ago, the 4 turtles plus the first female turtle in that show. Well, now she's in the book. So I don't know the story surrounding that. I haven't read this, and I'm probably not going to, honestly. Like I said, I bought this one. I'm almost ashamed to say it because this just isn't, it's not me. I don't buy books because of this. But the cover was cool. I just sort of, you know, got caught up in the hype, so I picked this one up. And last up from Source Point is a book called Number One. And this book was amazing. So this tells the story of a guy named Steve. Basically tells the story of his life growing up with comics, how he found them at a young age, fell in love with them, stuck with them as he grew up, and then when he got older, he opened his own comic shop and stuck with it. And you know, it tells the story of him going through all the different eras of comics, right? So I don't think this is an autobiographical story. I thought maybe it was one of the creators telling their own story. I don't think it's that, although if I'm wrong and you know that I'm wrong, please let me know and I'll fully admit it. But I don't think it's autobiographical, but it does accurately depict some of the events that really happened in the comic book industry. It talked about, you know, like in the late 70s, the DC implosion of the late 70s, the emergence of comic shops in the 80s, the speculator boom of the 90s, and then how the industry nearly tanked towards the end of the 90s, that kind of thing. So it accurately talks about all that stuff. You know, like I said, it touches on him as a kid reading these things and what they meant to him. And then it has a great ending. I can think of less than 5 comics in my 30 years of reading comics that have actually brought tears to my eyes. I didn't start crying, but this made me well up a little bit near the end. This was a really, and I guess maybe because the way that the character in this book views comics is the way that I do. Pieces of art, stories, history, that kind of thing. That's how I view comics, and it's exactly how he did as well. And it just really moved me by the end. The way that it ended really got to me. It was a wonderful story. So if you want to read a story about a guy who loves this stuff and everything he goes through because of that love, then definitely pick this one up. Like I said, it's one and done. Pick it up, read it, and you're done. And it's a fantastic story. But the fun doesn't stop there. I've got a few collected editions as well. The first one coming from the dollar bins. This is Uncanny X-Men Days of Future Past. So this is an old printing. I think it's from maybe like 1989. But it's real small. You can see it's real thin. This is, you know, one of those old school trades that they put out back then. You know, real small print on the spine and everything. I was trying to see what year, but yeah, it was just sitting in there for $1, and I have this story in one of the X-Men omnibuses over there, and I might have another collected edition of it somewhere. But I just thought for $1, you get the entire Days of Future Past storyline. If I ever wanted to just read it or thumb through it, I can just grab this off the shelf real quick and, you know, just flip through it, and nice white pages and everything. So yeah, one of the most classic stories of X-Men, and for $1, couldn't say no. So the next one was an impulse buy, one that I did not need at all, but it was sitting there on the counter and I just couldn't pass it up. This is the Venom Epic Collection Lethal Protector. Now, it's not the Lethal Protector, the original miniseries from the 90s. This actually collects the Spirits of Venom storyline from the 90s. I didn't need this because I still have all of those original issues in my long boxes back in this other room, but it collects Amazing Spider-Man 361 through 363, so I doubled up with that Maximum Carnage Epic Collection from last time. But Trial of Venom, couple Web of Spider-Mans, Ghost Rider Blaze, Spirits of Vengeance 5 and 6. Oh, it does have Venom Lethal Protector 1 through 6 in it, so I was wrong. And then some other Marvel Comics Presents stuff, and I just couldn't pass it up because I remember this story. This was so cool, such a cool time. You had Spider-Man and Venom and Ghost Rider, and Wolverine pops up too, although I think that's from the Marvel Comics Presents. I don't think he popped up in the Spirits of Venom storyline, but I just remember Venom and Ghost Rider mixing it up was really cool. So, like I said, I have these original issues. I could read them that way, or I could, you know, read them digitally, but this book just has them all together, and I love that kind of thing, so I had to pick this one up. So the next one I did pre-order, and this is a book I had fully intended to always read, and I never got around to it, but now that it's collected, I can. Astro City Metro Book 1. So this is from the 90s, right? Or is it from the early 2000s? I can't quite remember, but written by Kurt Busiek. This is basically a new take on superhero storytelling. So yeah, it is full of superheroes, none that you've ever heard of before. They're all made specifically for this story. I don't know much about it because I've never read it, but I do know that it's critically acclaimed. There was a lot of buzz about it when it first came out at the time. Like I said, I always meant to read it, never got around to it, and now it's all in one nice big volume. So yeah, I can finally sit down and read this as I should have a long time ago. And last but not least, another one that was a complete impulse buy. I totally didn't need this because I don't really love these stories, but it was sitting there on the counter, calling my name. I couldn't pass it up. This is the X-Men Volume 2 Omnibus. So this is the old school Silver Age X-Men. So this collects X-Men number 32 through 66. Starting with 67 through 94, I think, is when they switched to reprints. So X-Men, as we know them today, were not popular in the 60s, and they were so unpopular, in fact, that they stopped making new books with issue 66 and then just went into reprints after that for like 30 issues. So I had to get this one though because I have the volume 1, which collects issues 1 through 31, I think, and then I have all the omnibuses that pick up with Giant Size X-Men number 1 and then X-Men 95 and forward. So it wouldn't have made sense for me to not get this, because this like fills that hole. Now there's not going to be an omnibus for issues 97 through, I'm sorry, 67 through 90 whatever, because those are reprints. Or I don't think there's an omnibus, or there's a classic X-Men omnibus. Maybe that's it. I'm not sure. But you know, all this will take me all the way through, you know, those first 2 omnibuses, and then the other ones after that is, you know, a good chunk of X-Men history. So I just couldn't pass it up, especially since, you know, some of these you've got when Neil Adams joined the book, although he couldn't help the sales, but, you know, you got the first appearance of Polaris in this one, first appearance of Havoc, you know, you got some Neil Adams goodness down in here. So yeah, it'll be, you know, pretty to look at if nothing else. And I do want to read these one day, but these aren't some of my favorite Silver Age stories, but again, I got all the other ones, I couldn't pass this one up. And that's it, guys. Another awesome haul. Some really good stuff. There were some really good books this week, and I've still got other awesome ones to read. So, guys, I appreciate you watching. If you like this video or any of the other videos on my channel, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, give it a sarcastic thumbs up. And if nothing else, let me know what you picked up this week. Did you have any impulse buys? Something that you just couldn't pass up, but you weren't expecting to get? Did you get any cool, you know, dollar issues or whatever you got? Just let me know. Let me know what your favorite book of the week was. Just leave me a comment below. I love comic books. I could talk about them with a room full of people or just to a camera. Guys, don't forget, comic books are supposed to be fun. They are just another fun form of storytelling. Just like that number 1 book I told you about, you know, he loves those stories. That's what comic books are. They are stories. They are art. They're just another fantastic medium to you know, escape into. There's plenty to choose from, so it's easy to dig through them, find something you like. And it's really easy to ignore the things that you just don't like and let everybody else enjoy those books. Also, guys, don't forget, it doesn't matter how much you buy each week. What makes a great comic book haul is that you are passionate about the stuff that you get, that you're really excited about it. Whether you're going to sit down and read it or whether you buy a key or a graded comic, just as long as you're excited about it and it makes you happy and you're pumped for it, that's what makes a great comic book haul. Whether it's 1 book, 10 books, 100 books, it doesn't matter. As long as you're excited about it and you really value and cherish what you've got, that's what makes a great comic book haul. So guys, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.